Imagine growing up on an island where every child is taught the same terrifying rule. Never sail beyond the reef. Not because the ocean is dangerous, but because something out there is waiting. For hundreds of years, every fisherman who crossed the horizon disappeared without leaving behind a single piece of their boat. No bodies, no survivors, just endless silence. Eventually, the people stopped asking questions. Fear became tradition, and tradition became law. But there was one girl who never believed the stories. Every evening, while the rest of the village rushed indoors before sunset, she stood alone at the edge of the shore, staring at the endless blue horizon. She wasn't looking for adventure. She felt like the ocean was looking back at her. Ever since she was a little child, strange things happened whenever she touched the water. Gentle waves would rise toward her feet without a breeze. Sea turtles followed her wherever she walked along the beach. Even frightened birds became calm the moment she held them. The elders called it coincidence. Her grandmother called it destiny. One quiet night, the old woman revealed a secret that had been buried for generations. "Our family was never meant to stay on this island," she whispered. "We were born to guide the sea, not fear it." Before the young girl could ask another question, the old woman handed her a smooth blue stone unlike anything she had ever seen. It wasn't cold, it wasn't warm, it felt alive. The moment her fingers wrapped around it, the ocean exploded with light. Thousands of glowing waves stretched across the water like stars falling from the sky. Then, everything went dark. She woke up the next morning believing it had all been a dream. Until she looked outside, the sea had disappeared. Where endless water once touched the horizon, there was only cracked earth stretching for miles. Fish flopped helplessly in shallow puddles. Ships rested on dry sand. Massive whales lay stranded beneath the burning sun. People screamed in panic as the island's lifeline vanished overnight. No storm, no earthquake. The ocean itself had simply left. The village chief ordered everyone to gather food before chaos spread. The priests blamed angry spirits. The warriors prepared for enemies. But the girl's grandmother looked only at the blue stone still glowing in her granddaughter's hands. "It has begun," she said quietly. "What has begun?" the girl asked. "The sea has chosen you." Before anyone could understand those words, the ground shook with terrifying force. Far beyond the empty seabed, something enormous began to move. At first, everyone believed it was a mountain. Then the mountain opened two glowing eyes. The ancient creature slowly rose from the ocean floor after sleeping for thousands of years. Its body was covered in coral, broken ships, and forests that had grown across its back. Every step it took echoed like thunder across the empty sea. People dropped to their knees. Children cried. Even the bravest warriors couldn't move. The creature wasn't attacking. It was searching for the girl holding the glowing blue stone. Without saying a single word, it raised one massive hand toward her. The stone suddenly floated into the air. A beam of blue light shot into the sky. The clouds split apart, and hidden above them was something no human had seen for centuries. A floating kingdom. Entire islands drifted among the clouds, connected by waterfalls that poured upward instead of down. Giant birds circled golden temples suspended in the air. Ancient ships sailed through the clouds as if the sky itself had become an ocean. The villagers stood frozen. Everything they believed about the world had just shattered. The old woman smiled through tears. "The stories weren't myths," she whispered. "They were memories." The creature bowed its enormous head before the girl. Not as an enemy, not as a monster, but as a guardian greeting its rightful captain. The girl had no idea why the sea had chosen her. She didn't know where the floating kingdom had come from. And she certainly didn't know why the ocean had vanished. But somewhere beyond those clouds, a forgotten power had awakened. And if she failed to uncover the truth, the sea would never return again. The entire village watched in stunned silence as the colossal guardian lowered itself before the young girl. Its voice was deep enough to shake the cliffs, yet strangely gentle. "For 3,000 years, it said, I have waited for the keeper of the tide." The girl looked behind her, hoping the creature was speaking to someone else. There was no one. The glowing stone drifted back into her hands. "I think you've made a mistake," she whispered. "I've never left this island." The guardian slowly closed its enormous eyes. "That is exactly why you were hidden." No one understood what those words meant. The village chief stepped forward with his spear raised. "Stay away from my people." The giant didn't even look at him. Instead, it stretched one massive finger toward the empty seabed. The cracked earth suddenly began glowing with thousands of ancient symbols. Within seconds, enormous ruins emerged from beneath the sand. Stone towers, broken bridges, temples older than history itself. An entire civilization had been sleeping beneath the ocean all along. The villagers stood frozen. Their island had never been alone. It had been built on top of the remains of a forgotten kingdom. The grandmother slowly walked toward the ruins with tears filling her eyes. "I've seen these symbols before," she whispered. "When I was a little girl, my grandmother drew them in the sand. She said they belonged to the first navigators." "The first navigators?" the girl asked. The old woman nodded. "They didn't simply sail across the sea. They commanded it." Suddenly, the blue stone became too hot to hold. The girl dropped it onto the ground. Instead of falling, it floated inches above the sand. Thin streams of blue light spread across the ancient ruins like rivers. One by one, massive statues awakened. Each statue held a different object. A sword carved from crystal. A golden compass. A silver shell. A crown made of coral. The final statue looked different from all the others. It held nothing. Its empty hands were reaching toward the sky. The guardian spoke again. "The 7 relics. The powers that once kept the oceans alive." The girl stared at the statues. "Where are the other relics?" The guardian's expression darkened. "Lost. Stolen. Destroyed. And one." It looked directly into her eyes. "Has chosen you." Without warning, the floating kingdom above the clouds began trembling. Pieces of marble broke away from its edges and crashed toward the earth like meteors. One enormous fragment slammed into the empty seabed, sending dust hundreds of feet into the air. When the dust finally settled, a man stepped out. He wore black armor covered in glowing blue cracks. His face was hidden beneath an ancient mask. In one hand, he carried a long spear made entirely of black crystal. Every step he took caused the glowing symbols beneath the ground to fade into darkness. The guardian immediately moved in front of the girl. "I hoped you would never awaken," it growled. The masked warrior laughed. "I've been awake for centuries. I was simply waiting." His gaze locked onto the glowing stone. For the last key, the villagers prepared to fight. The warrior smiled. "You still think this is your world?" He lifted his spear. The sky itself split open. From the enormous crack, dozens of black ships descended through the clouds. They didn't sail on water. They floated through the air. Each vessel carried armored soldiers whose eyes glowed the same unnatural blue. Children screamed. Parents rushed them toward the forest. The chief ordered every warrior to defend the village. The grandmother grabbed the girl's arm. "You have to run. But everyone else, they cannot stop what is coming." The masked warrior pointed his spear toward the island. "I give you one chance. Hand over the tide stone. And I may spare your people." The girl looked down at the glowing crystal. She still had no idea what it really was. But somehow, she knew giving it away would doom the entire world. "I won't." The warrior sighed. A predictable answer. He snapped his fingers. One of the flying ships unleashed a beam of dark energy. It struck the tallest mountain on the island. The peak exploded into thousands of burning rocks. Ash covered the sky. The villagers watched in horror as their sacred mountain collapsed into the sea that no longer existed. The message was clear. If he could destroy a mountain with a single attack, the village wouldn't survive the next one. The guardian turned toward the girl. "There is only one path left." It lowered one enormous hand. "Climb onto my shoulder. We're leaving." "Where are we going?" she asked. The guardian looked toward the floating kingdom hidden above the clouds. "To the place where the oceans were born. And to the place where your real story began." The villagers gathered around her, begging her not to go. Some believed the giant was lying. Others believed the world had finally come to an end. Her father stepped forward, his hands trembling. "You don't have to carry this burden," he said. "Let someone else fight." She wanted to agree. She wanted to stay. This island was the only home she had ever known. Every tree, every beach, every smiling face, everything she loved was here. But as she looked across the dry seabed, she realized something. If the ocean had truly vanished, there would soon be no island left to protect. She wrapped her arms around her father one last time. "I'll come back." He tried to smile. "I know." But deep inside, neither of them believed those words. The guardian carefully lifted her onto its shoulder. As its enormous body began moving across the cracked ocean floor, the entire village watched until they disappeared into the endless horizon. Behind them, the black warships remained suspended above the island like hungry vultures. The masked warrior didn't follow. He simply watched. "The journey has begun," he whispered. "It won't matter. They always fail." Hours passed. The farther they traveled across the empty seabed, the stranger the world became. Entire forests of coral stood frozen like colorful trees made of stone. Skeletons of creatures larger than castles rested beneath layers of sand. Ancient ships lay scattered everywhere, perfectly preserved despite being thousands of years old. One ship caught the girl's attention. Unlike the others, it wasn't broken. It looked as if it had landed gently on the ocean floor only yesterday. Its white sails hadn't aged. Its wooden hull showed no cracks. Even the lanterns hanging from its mast still glowed with soft blue light. "How is that possible?" she asked. The Guardian stopped walking. "Because time never touched that ship." The girl frowned. "What does that mean?" "It belongs to the Tidewalkers. They sailed between moments, not places." Before she could ask another question, the ship's bell rang. Once, twice, 3 times. No wind, no crew, just the haunting sound echoing across the empty sea. Then footsteps. A figure slowly emerged from the deck. An old sailor with silver hair. His clothes looked ancient, yet perfectly clean. His eyes were unlike anything she had ever seen. One was bright blue, the other shimmered like liquid gold. He smiled as though he had been expecting her. "You took your time." The girl stared in confusion. Do I know you?" The old man laughed. "No, but I knew your mother." The words hit harder than any storm. "My mother died when I was a baby." "So you were told." The sailor's smile disappeared. "The truth is far more complicated." The Guardian lowered its head respectfully. "You survived." The sailor nodded. "Barely." He climbed down from the ship with surprising ease. "My name is Orion. I was captain of the Sky Tide. The last ship ever built before the oceans were sealed." The girl looked back at the glowing vessel. "If you're alive, then where have you been all these years?" Orion looked toward the empty horizon. "Hiding, waiting, watching the world forget what it once was." He reached into his coat and pulled out an old map. It wasn't made of paper. It shimmered like flowing water. Mountains shifted across its surface. Stars moved by themselves. Entire islands appeared and disappeared every few seconds. "This isn't a map of places," Orion explained. "It's a map of living currents." He pointed toward 7 glowing circles scattered across the shifting ocean. The 7 tide hearts. They were created when the world was young. They keep the seas alive. The girl's eyes widened. "The blue stone." Orion nodded. "It isn't just a stone. It's the first tide heart. And now every force in the world knows you've awakened it." Before anyone could speak again, the map suddenly turned black. One by one, 6 glowing circles vanished. Only the one in the girl's hand remained. Orion's face went pale. "No." The Guardian immediately noticed. "What happened?" "The others," Orion whispered. "They've already fallen." A deafening roar echoed across the empty seabed. The ground cracked open hundreds of yards away. From beneath the sand, gigantic chains burst into the air. Each chain was as thick as a lighthouse. They wrapped around the ancient ship before anyone could react. The Sky Tide groaned as it was dragged toward the darkness below. "Not again," Orion shouted. He sprinted toward the ship. The Guardian charged forward, trying to break the chains. It grabbed one with both hands. The chain snapped instantly, only for 3 more to erupt from beneath the ground. Then something enormous began climbing out of the abyss. At first, only 2 glowing red eyes appeared. Then rows of jagged black horns. Then a mouth large enough to swallow entire ships. Its body wasn't covered in scales. It was covered in rusted anchors, broken masts, and thousands of shattered swords fused into its skin. The creature had been feeding on lost ships for centuries. It wasn't hunting the Guardian. It wasn't hunting Orion. It wanted the Tide Heart. And now, it knew exactly who was carrying it.